Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana, and I am so excited to be celebrating 10 years of meaningful conversations with you. As we step into our new primetime hour, it's such an honor to share this exciting new chapter with you. So whether you're starting your day out, headed to work, or listening from wherever you are, this hour is designed to bring you thoughtful dialogue, fresh insight, and inspiring stories so you can make every moment count. So thank you for being here with me today, and let's dive in. We're here today with special guest, Elizabeth Woodworth, who's here to share with us her new book, Garden Earth, Grounding Ourselves in Nature on Small Farms. What if the answer to today's biggest challenges are food, health, happiness, and the future of our planet begins by returning to the land? Well, today's guest is here to share with us just that. Elizabeth Woodworth spent 25 years as head medical librarian at the British Columbia government. She's the author of the popular handbook on nuclear weapons activism, What Can I Do?, and writer on climate change science and activism, co-producer COP21 video, A Climate Revolution for All. So welcome to the show, Elizabeth Woodworth.
Thank you. Very glad to be here.
Well, what an honor it is to have you here and to talk about Garden Earth. Why do you feel this message was needed now?
Well, the title really gives away my reason, grounding ourselves in nature on small farms. As a society, we are not well grounded in contentment, when about 20% of people are suffering from depression. And a grounded society does not have perpetual war, widespread homelessness, and mass school shootings. So that's why I wrote it.
Well, it's such a profound book. Why did you write this book specifically for young people living in cities who really dream of a different way of life?
I wanted to offer them a realistic alternative to the 75% living in cities surrounded by asphalt.
What has happened to small family farms since World War II, and why does that matter so much today?
At the end of World War II, the Commission for Economic Development decided that the mechanical and chemical technologies of the war should be adapted to agriculture. So agriculture became an industry with enormous chemically fertilized single crops, and small farms could not compete. They either went under or they consolidated together into large monocultural farms. So with the result that we have lost 80% of our small farms since World War II.
That's just unreal that we've lost that many small farms since then.
Absolutely. It's getting them back is going to be a bit of a problem, but the government could help with policies if it wanted to. It could offer better subsidies. Most of the subsidies now go to the large monocultural farms, and so that there's massive production, but low quality production. So we want to return to high quality production on fertile organic soils, and the government should recognize that by subsidizing small farms again.
So, how has the rise of industrial culture changed our relationship with the land?
Well, instead of relying on natural soil biology and diverse crop rotations to maintain fertility, the land is pumped with synthetic nitrogen fertilizers to force production. The landscape has been stripped of its natural biodiversity. Vast, uninterrupted stretches of single crops, like corn and soy, have replaced complex habitats, making the land highly vulnerable to pests and weather extremes. And heavy tilling, pesticides, and massive machinery compress the soil and degrade it, causing the loss of about half of our natural topsoils.
I never knew that. And you mentioned biodiversity. So, what does that mean, and why should the average person be more concerned about its decline?
Oh, it's such a good question. Biodiversity is the vast variety of life on Earth. Every living thing. That's what it is, including plants, animals, fungi, microorganisms. And nature gives us clean water, fertile soil, and natural pest control if we just left it alone. Bees and insects pollinate most of the world's crops. So that's why we are on the point of losing millions of species right now in the next few years.
And that all has to do with biodiversity?
Yes, yes. It's we've I can't remember exactly how many we've lost already, but the point they're making right now, they did a study of this in 2019, and they said the UN did that study. They said that the big problem is that we're on the verge of losing millions more.
I think that that is just terrifying to hear that. In your book, you share on how modern farming practices affect the health of our food and ultimately our own health. Can you share on that for us?
Sure. Monoculture focuses almost entirely on three staple crops: corn, wheat, and soy. This depletes the land and doesn't produce nutritious food, as natural organic soil would do. Over 55% of the average American diet is ultra processed junk food right now, which drives chronic diet related conditions affecting over 70% of the population.
Well, that's a huge percentage if we look at that. And it's interesting how all of this is so interconnected.
Yes. Yeah, it is all interconnected, and we have connections between today's food system and the growing rates of three major things: obesity, diabetes, and depression. Uh, Corn, wheat, and soya are ultra processed into high fructose corn syrup, into refined white flour, and hydrogenated soybean oils. These cheap, empty calories are driving global obesity. And medicine has shown us. I'm a retired medical librarian, so I'm kind of tuned to medicine. Medicine shows us that the same biochemical pathways also directly cause type 2 diabetes and clinical depression.
Well, that's amazing. Just how much the food that we eat and we don't think about really impacts not just us, but the environment and everything.
It really does. It's so fundamental, isn't it? The growing of food and the effect of food on us.
Man, that's just unreal. I mean, why do you believe that food security and self sufficiency are becoming increasingly important?
Well, we probably all realize lately that the global food trade, um, which we depend upon so highly, is increasingly subject to war and climate disruptions. CO2 emissions from food transport are adding to climate change, as this very hot early summer already shows, especially in Europe right now. The temperatures are just wild. The same happening here in Canada. It's more like July temperatures all through June. So that's why I think it's becoming so important.
Well, it's interesting when we're seeing these warming trends all throughout the world and just how that affects not just the planet, but the people on it, affects the food. It's just this little domino effect.
It surely is. It's uh it's worldwide, and I think we really do need to get back to living on the land. And out of like 80% of people now in the world live in cities, surrounded by asphalt. They're not into nature. They can't be.
Yeah, it's definitely been a shift over a course of many years, probably since like the 80s, maybe, or even before.
I'd say so. It was different in the 70s, which I remember. Very different. It's been gradual since then. Yeah.
Well, your research points to higher happiness levels in countries that produce much of their own food. What can we learn from those cultures?
I think a lot. India is an industrial power that produces its own food, but it is still guided by ancient spiritual traditions that view nature and human life as interconnected. We can shift our relationship with nature from one of ownership and exploitation to one of kinship and reciprocity. Um, Instead of asking, what can I take from the land? Our mindset could shift to, what does this land need from me to thrive? We can also grant legal rights to nature. And there's a lot of work being done on that right now. Like, if we can get them nature legally represented, then cases could be taken to court and so on.
Well, that's definitely a very interesting perspective when we look at it that way, because there are countries where they've banned pesticides, and a lot of the foods that we eat here in the US is much different than Europe and other places.
That's so true. That really is true. Europeans notice that when they come and eat the bread in North America, and they get allergic to it when they're not allergic to their own.
It's very interesting, just the differences in food and what's allowed here and not in other countries. So when we look at how living closer to land really influences a person's sense of purpose and well-being, can you share on that for us?
Absolutely. We're in a totally different headspace when we live outdoors in nature. We can feel the sun or the rain or the wind upon us, whether it's pleasant or invigorating or threatening. Those things make us feel alive. And feeling alive is what it takes to garden or raise farm animals or chop wood. These things are deeply satisfying and make us feel strong and good.
So what role does spirituality play in our relationship with nature?
This is really a good question. In famous poems I've been reading, and I put them in the book, people describe sacred moments they have had in the grandeur of forests. One poet wrote, "The forest is sacredness itself. Nature is not merely created by God, nature is God." Others have said that the forest was the first cathedral, and I think we've all stood in a big forest like the redwoods and looked up and just marveled at the way we feel doing that.
I know when I've seen the redwoods, it makes us, at least for me, I felt very small and insignificant compared to one of those massive trees.
Yeah, it's kind of good not to feel too big, isn't it?
Yeah, our place in the world is, trees been around for, as they say, thousands of years, and here we are, just a little person right next to it.
Yeah, true, true.
Now, there's something in your book I want to touch on. You write about wisdom traditions and perennial philosophy. So, what is that, and why is that still relevant today?
That's such an old tradition. Um, it's the ancient universal core of truth shared by the world's oldest philosophies and religions and indigenous cultures. And it teaches that all of existence is interconnected, sacred, and part of a single unified reality. Unlike modern Western frameworks that prioritize data, technology, and economic growth, the wisdom tradition prioritizes wholeness, harmony, and ultimate reality.
Well, that sounds really amazing. And so, when we look at perennial philosophy, is that pretty much the same thing, just said in a different way?
Yeah, they're both the same thing, really. Aldous Huxley was really into that. He died during my lifetime. He died in the 60s, I think. But he was I guess the expert on the perennial philosophy, and he wrote a book about it with quotes from people all through time. It's a great book.
Well, that sounds like another great read. So, how did earlier civilizations view nature differently than we do today?
Oh, it's almost the same as the wisdom tradition. They viewed nature as sacred, a sacred living web of kinship and spiritual power. whereas many people today view it as a mechanical resource. Nature is something to be used, to be owned, controlled, and exploited. Such a different approach.
I would think that there's this call for us to get back to a place where we were in unity with nature than where we are now.
Wouldn't that be wonderful? If nature could be our kind of governing philosophy, how will everything we do affect nature, which is our home, it's our earth. It's why we're here.
Well, and so how can someone embrace a nature-based mindset without becoming a farmer? Because not all of us have accessibility to areas of land.
Oh, absolutely. Anybody, anywhere many city people get into nature as often as possible. Um, but the parks, here in where I live, the provincial parks are always booked up early in the spring, and the ski hills, it's the same thing, and the boat marinas are often full. So these things have to be booked ahead. It's much better to live in a small community, which is what Mahatma Gandhi, he really recommended that for India when he was alive. Um, and there's quite a lot about him in my book.
Well, it was such an inspiration. And for folks that want to take one practical first step to, if they're living in a city where they can start to make more of a transition to self-sufficiency lifestyle, what would you suggest?
I think the first thing is to become realistically informed. Um, the, like society isn't particularly grounded through the media right now. It's the corporate media is it's mostly about supporting. Um, it seems to be about supporting war, and and I mean, why do these wars go on for so long? I don't know, but people need to become realistically informed about how to make a fundamental move from the city to the country. And they need to be prepared on which skills can be moved to the country, which organizations can. There are lots of organizations encouraging people to do farming and to approach the government. There are lands in Canada and the United States that you can rent or live on. If you live on them for so many years, they become yours. There's all kinds of stuff to know about how to succeed in farming. So I've got that all laid out in my book for anybody to help them prepare them to move out of the city.
I would think that it takes a lot of preparation because aside from the land that you decide that you're going to work, you have to consider things like water and where you're going to live. And if you have animals, you have to think about predators. So there's a lot to take into consideration when you move.
Indeed, there is, and there are a lot of. My book gives the spiritual and practical reasons to change our thinking. But there are a lot of really practical books about how to deal with those things that you're mentioning, and any Google search would bring those up.
Start the education early. And I love how your book really does give people a little bit of a roadmap in order to make that type of a transition. I thought it was very useful.
Oh, thanks for saying that. I'm glad to hear that. The book's just come out in the last 2 or 3 weeks, so I haven't had a lot of feedback yet. I'd love to hear from your readers what they think of it.
So, how can reconnecting with nature really help people find like greater resilience, especially, I mean, we're going through some uncertain times right now.
Oh, I just love what Wendell Berry did about this. Um, like nature is always there to calm and comfort us. And his lovely poem about retreating into nature, like in the middle of the night, if he's worried about his children and what the future holds, he wrote this poem called The Peace of Wild Things. And he reads it on YouTube. And it's just beautiful of how just watching the animals or the birds on a pond can change your whole consciousness from anxiety and worry into peace, which I find. I have a duck pond near me, and I go down there and can't believe, as soon as I get there, I feel different. So that's worth knowing.
It's amazing how just being out in nature can change perspective.
It sure is. It really
Mhm.
is.
Are there misconceptions that people have about small scale farming and rural living?
I think there are. Um, in reaching out to publishers I'm getting some help from somebody to reach out with this book. And one of the people said that he thought that small farms are part of the past, and that it would be going backwards to restore them. And he actually said that no one wanted to be a peasant. So
Oh my goodness.
uh, I don't think farmers ever considered themselves to be peasants.
Well, there's a lot more that makes a person wealthy other than money. We'll put it that way.
That's a good way of putting it, for sure.
hmm So,
Yeah.
what do you hope readers will understand about humanity's relationship with nature after reading Garden Earth?
Um, well, there's a section of the book called The Dimming of Nature, Our Downfall. And there's another section called Nature's Ancient Wisdom Tradition, Our Saving Grace. I hope people will put their rushed modern city lives into the perspective that all of existence is interconnected, sacred, and part of a single unified reality that we can invite into our own lives.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I think that really puts it into perspective about our relationship with nature and how we can start really cultivating that and developing it, especially when we've been so disconnected.
I'm glad you like it. That's good. A good omen for maybe the book. There's so many books published right now that getting any book much readership is difficult.
What would you like readers to take away from Garden Earth?
I think the main message is that our current dysfunctional society need not define us as individuals. We have choice in how to think and act from our deepest values, and we can choose to have our children living in the grace of the country outdoors, running around until dusk each evening, healthy, strong, natural children growing up happy.
And really having those life experiences that you can't get in other places.
That's so true. And I have to say that this is biographical and that's how I grew up. And I'm so grateful that I had that kind of a childhood. I really wish it for everybody.
Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
It was a great pleasure, Marianne, and thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, Garden Earth, Grounding Ourselves in Nature on Small Farms. Garden Earth is available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and everywhere books are sold. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.